Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're checking out a knife from Temu. This is $1.34. I'm actually surprised that on the website it does show the blade steel, which apparently is 3 CR13, which I believe, because it's not a particularly special steel. If they're selling for $1.34 and they said it was S35VN or something, I would just think it was made up, right? Just a selling point, but I kind of believe that. The reason I'm making the video on it is because it's actually pretty decent. I mean, it's amazing. It's a great knife for $1.34, but it's actually pretty decent. Even if you paid 10 bucks, you know, if you found this at the store or something, Walmart or, you know, big box store or something. So this is a really simple design, all right? Essentially, it's a Foley knife. Everything's pinned together, but it's just a back spacer, right? We have two stamped pieces of steel and a blade. That's pretty much it. The back incorporates a carabiner, which is actually kind of nice because you could throw this on a bag. It's actually the purpose for this knife that I wanted to get is I have so much different random gear and bags and stuff, and all that molly webbing is just kind of sitting there. Some bags have some things attached, but I figured I could just clip this onto a bag and just forget about it. That's it. Back up to a backup to a backup. It is non-locking. All right, it's a slip joint. All right, so it uses the pressure from the back spring to keep it closed. And once you get to the halfway point, it does have kind of a half stop, if you will. And then you click it open and you're good to go. What's interesting though is because this has a thin blade, it has a really thin edge. So even when it's not actually sharp, it's still kind of sharp. Does that make sense? If you have super thin knives, like for example, I'll give you a great example. You can have a knife, a traditional, you know, folding knife, let's say a liner lock or a lock back or something like that, regular, you know, 3.5 inch blade. And you can have a decently thick blade, and that blade will feel dull even before it's duller than, let's say, a little Swiss Army knife, right? All of the SAC classics that everyone has, those little tiny blades, those little blades are super sharp because they're just so thin. It's like a regular razor blade. A razor blade can be getting dull, but it still performs, it still cuts things for a long time. And the reason for that is because it's just a thin piece of metal. Does that make sense? If you have a super thick blade, like you got a really beefy frame lock, there was a time, you know, not too many years ago where that was the trend. Everyone was getting big, huge, fat, overbuilt, you know, tactical knives. And they had thick, thick blades, and the blades were sharpened very, very well. But they just didn't seem that sharp because you had such a thick edge, right? So in other words, a thin knife appears to be sharp even when it's not at its peak sharpness, right? So this was actually capable of cutting things, believe it or not. $1.34 knife, you know, to be able to cut something is pretty amazing. You would assume that it would just be dull, but it wasn't. It was sharp. It didn't hold a fantastic edge. However, I did maintain it properly. I did sharpen this once. And that was when I first got it. I did a lot of cutting 550 cord. I was actually testing a different knife, but I was cutting a lot of 550 with it. It dulled out pretty quickly. At least when I say dulled out, I don't mean like, oh, it couldn't cut anything. You know, it's not a butter knife at that point. It's just not performing the same. I'm, you know, noticing that it's, you know, taking more pressure to cut the 550, right? So that took one sharpening job, and it was a quick job. I didn't even go crazy with it. I think I just used like a 600 grit stone. That's it, couple passes. It was a hand stone, and I was done. And since then, all I did was strop it up. That was it. And it actually has a usable edge. It's not, you know, super impressive. It's not a razor, you know, sharp knife or anything, but it'll cut stuff with a fairly, let's see, what do I have around me? All right, I grabbed some cordage here. This was the neck lanyard. Whoops, I put a knot in it on accident. This is a neck lanyard that came with a Kaiser neck knife, but I swapped it for 550. So this is just some kind of fake 550, some cheaper stuff. But just to show this knife, you know, actually can cut stuff, there you go. You know, it takes more pressure than if I had a super, super nice high-end blade, but it's not like I'm struggling, you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to do push cuts. This is a push cut where you're just staying on one side. If I'm doing a slice, it's even easier to cut through. A slice, and I'm not putting pressure on it right now, but using multiple points, like you're starting here, but you're cutting all the way to here before it goes through. Just cutting in one particular spot, a push cut, is harder to do, right? So we'll get a fresh little spot here. So a push cut, let's try towards the tip here. I'm just pushing, that's it, right? That took some more pressure towards the tip. If I slice, it, you know, it doesn't even make it to the tip. It cuts through. All right, so that's the difference. Push cut, again, that wasn't as bad as before. Before, I used more pressure and my other hand here came back and hit the camera. But there you go. So yeah, I mean, it's sharp enough. So yeah, I mean, for $1.34, it's pretty phenomenal, right? It's a fantastic knife. I mean, if you ordered 10 of them, 13 bucks, $13.40, right? If my very brief quick math works. For $13, having 10 of these to just clip everywhere. You know, you can clip this on the belt loop on your pants, like off to the side, and just forget about it. That's it, just all day. I mean, you have your regular knives, whatever, but let's say you got that one job where you got a box to open, there's all this nasty, like, layer after layer of tape on there, and you got your brand new folder you just got, and you're all proud of it and stuff. You don't want to get tape residue on it. Now, some people obviously don't care. That's why you spent $200 on a knife. That's why you spent $300 on a knife, right? To cut stuff. However, if you're that person just wants to avoid that tape glue that day, you got this thing dangling on you. You know what I'm saying? Just a little backup. So yeah, I would highly recommend this. I don't recommend Temu specifically. Again, I'm super against the app. Do not use the app. But you go to the website, you know, I talked about it. If you use a dummy account, maybe take, you know, roll the dice, take the chance. It might steal your information. You know, is it worth going through that for a $1.34 knife? No, of course not. I did it, and, you know, I told my tale. Everything seems fine so far. But it doesn't mean, you know, it's always going to happen. And as I explained in one of the videos, there's multiple sellers, lots of different people. So you can go to Temu and you can order something. I mean, someone can order something 80 times and be totally happy with 80 different packages, right? However, someone could just try once and that's it. They got their identity stolen or their credit card stolen. So, you know, you guys proceed with caution, but I'm just saying, if you see this knife anywhere else, there's plenty of other, you know, Chinese websites that obviously people don't have as many problems with. It's just Temu happens to just be the latest big one that they're throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars into advertising so everyone knows about them. But I mean, for $1.34, what I'm telling you really is that this is a good knife. I like this knife. If you see it on Amazon, which is for some reason more trusted, even though, yeah, still a lot of Chinese stuff coming from Amazon and Chinese sellers. But if that makes you feel a little better, seeing the, you know, little, you know, Amazon swoop, it gives you a little more confidence in buying something. But you see it on there for like $8, still worth $8. I would pay probably $10 for this. I think it's well worth $10 or less. If you see someone selling it for 15, 17, 20, nah, there's too many options out there. But for $10, not bad. For $1.34, really not bad, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to check it out. Originally, when I, you know, looked at Temu, I was going to get a bunch of different knives here and there, but I thought, what's the point? I mean, certain knives, it's just, there's just so many counterfeits, and I was kind of curious about it. Like they have a, what is it? It's a cold steel, the Tanto version of the Spike. It's a Tanto Spike, one of my favorite neck knives. I carried one for a very long time. They have a fake version on there. I want to say it's like $6. So I'm kind of curious, but I just know what it's going to be. It's going to be the Spike, just not as good. It's going to be the same shape, probably a very similar feel, lesser, you know, performance with the blade steel. But, you know, for the price, it's going to be fine. I happen to just like the design. I don't have to get it to know that, you know what I'm saying? But this particular one, it's just one that came up recommended when I was looking the very first time. And I thought, yeah, for $1.34, I'll give it a shot. I've had it ever since, a couple of months, and it's fine. It's totally fine. So if you're ever curious about this particular one, now you got my opinion on it. But yeah, I mean, it is nice having a little carabiner back there. You know, like I say, clip that on anything. Belt loop on your jeans, your pants, cargo stuff, backpack straps, you know, your bags, molly straps, all kinds of stuff. You can get creative with, you know, where you would put this thing. But keep in mind too, like if I put this on molly, I'm not going to put it directly on the molly just because it'll be stiff on there. I want it to kind of move around or be able to move around. You can obviously slip the whole thing, you know, into the molly strap and then clip this to something else. But like I'd have something in between. I'd have like I don't know, a D-ring or perhaps like a split ring or something on the actual strap, and then this clipped onto the ring, not directly onto the molly. But once it's clipped, you know, if I don't want it jiggling around, I can slip it in as if one of those, you know, straps was a pocket just to keep it flat against the bag. Or if I want it loose so it's easily accessible, then I would let it flop around. So it just depends. You got lots of options there though. You know, once you get a little clip, the sky's the limit. Clip it to wherever you want. But anyway, that's all. My opinions on a $1.34 knife from China. It's amazing, you know, that it's that cheap, but I think I touched upon that in the other video. You know, they're not making much money. They're just accumulating a company and growing the company and building the stock price and all that stuff. And eventually it just won't be there anymore. We'll see it go away, or maybe someone will buy it. Who knows? But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you happen to find a knife on Temu that you happen to really like, feel free to share it down below. Say what it's called. I mean, the problem is that there's no names for any of this stuff. This is like, they call this a whatever. It's so generic sometimes with these Chinese sites. This is like a fisherman's metal knife for hunting and outdoors stuff and whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I can tell you, hey, this is the Model 652. That'd be easier, wouldn't it? But, you know, you see what it looks like if you just type in folding knife, you know, and go from cheapest to highest, you'll find it pretty quickly. And again, the problem with that site is that the prices are constantly fluctuating. This could be 90 cents one day, it could be $1.80 another day, but it's never going to be, you know, $15. I'll say that. So anyway, I am also curious, excuse me, if you have bought one of the more expensive knives in Temu, if you spent like 20 bucks or something on one of their folders, I'm very curious to see, you know, what that would be like. Maybe I'll do that in the future, just get like their most expensive knife or something, the folding knife anyway. Like I said, curiosity is definitely a thing. So that's why I have this, you know. I was curious. I'm like, man, what are you going to get for $1.34? I was just assuming it was going to break or it's total junk, but that's just not the case anymore. You can get super, super cheap stuff that actually works, and this is a great example of it, you know. So anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.